Hi there! I am doing another video now about protective styling. So if you'd watched my previous video, which was super long and really rambly, I talked about just my experiences of being a natural and, some of the bumps in the road along the way. But there are some advantages to it, and there's some cool things that you can do along the way of your natural hair journey. If you're considering going natural and you're kind of curious on what styles you can do to tuck your hair away, one of the really great things you can do is something called protective styling. So if you're really wondering, okay, what is protective styling then? Well, protective styling is mainly a way of protecting your hair ends so that they're not exposed to the elements, they're not exposed to the environment, and they're not brushing up against your clothing. So you essentially protect the hair. You protect the ends. So an example of protective styling is something that I'm actually wearing right now. So this is a kinky twist with some extensions put in place, and I've had it in for I think over a month now, and it is really convenient and easy and great. So in this video, I'm hoping that I'm just gonna be able to detail to you some of the pros and the cons of having protective styling. But I think there's a lot more pros than cons. I am all for protective styling. I think it's really great as far as natural hair and being able to do cute styles and still being able to have no fuss, no muss, okay? So without further ado, I'm just gonna get into the video. I have, again, my notes here and I have my drink. So let me get started. So for pros, I think there's a lot more pros than cons, like I said. One of the first pros I find with protective styling is that it saves time. There is a lot of time that is wasted when you go natural and you're dealing with wash days and etc, etc. When you have your hair in a protective style, you are cutting down a lot of time. So for example, because I have my hair in these extensions right now, the main focus I have when it comes to washing my hair is the scalp, purely the scalp. So I can dilute a shampoo, for example, in like a little applicator bottle, shake it up a bit, kind of squirt it on my scalp, clean some of the debris out of the way, and then just gently wash it out, and then I'm good to go. You know, you don't have to worry about getting up extra early in the morning and having to do your hair up, or having to do a style the previous night and then having to take it out so it's presentable in the morning time. And if anyone knows anything about me, sleep is absolutely paramount to everything else in the world. So anytime I can save time and get to sleep in just a teeny bit a little longer, I'm gonna do it. So protective styling is a huge time saver. One of the other points I find with protective styling that's a pro is that it actually helps me out as far as scalp massages. Scalp massaging is actually really beneficial for your hair. It helps to provide nutrients into your hair strands. Your scalp is really well vascularized, and there's a lot of blood flow going through your hair strands. So by stimulating it even more so by doing scalp massages, you are actually helping in turn providing healthy nutrients to the hair, and with also assisting it in growing length, because it's a very stimulating practice of massaging the scalp. And I find that when I do protective styles, particularly ones like these where a lot of scalp is exposed, it's a lot easier to get in there and to just gently massage and create that environment for healthier hair growth. So I actually find it really a lot easier versus if I'm just doing regular styling where you have your hair kind of in a certain way where you're not really wanting to dig your hands into. But protective styling like these, like kinky twists with extensions, I find that it just leaves a lot of scalp area open so that you can actually get your fingers in there. So I find it really beneficial in that sense. Another point, which is really a really big one, is that it's a huge mental break by doing protective styling. Now, you don't want to be doing protective stylings for huge long periods of time, but for example, for a protective style like this, I can keep it in on average for maybe 6 to 8 weeks, which I really think is great. And I don't think you should be going past that point if you're installing any protective style in your hair. But for 6 to 8 weeks, it's a great mental break where I don't have to be thinking about my hair. My hair is already styled, and with extensions I can braid it up and do like a side pony like this, or throw it into a little bun, or just put it in a ponytail, and I'm just good to go. And oftentimes with natural hair, when your hair is all out and you're worrying about keeping the moisture balance in and making it look presentable and still being unique to you, it can just get really mentally frustrating, just detangling and dealing with it on and off. And just having your hair locked away for a set amount of time is actually really welcome. And I encourage you, if you are already natural or newly natural and you find that you're getting a little frustrated with the hair and you're being a little bit more aggressive and rough and you just need that mental break from it, then I would say just put in a protective style and you kind of give yourself time to take a step back and just kind of leave your hair alone and kind of focus on other things that are important to you, right? Speaking about the detangling portion, detangling. Oh my goodness, when your hair is in a protective style, it's in a set style, and you don't have to mess with it, you don't have to detangle. Oh my goodness, detangling is one of the worst things about being natural. It's one of the, as much as I love my natural hair and I enjoy it, and it probably doesn't seem like that considering the way I was complaining in my previous video about the trials and tribulations of being a natural. I really do enjoy it, but detangling is definitely a deterrent. It is really hard. It takes a lot of time. It's super time consuming. So when you have protective style, you do not have to worry about raking combs to your hair constantly and just breaking a ton of hair off because you're getting frustrated because everything is kind of locking together like that. So detangling and not having to do it while my hair is in protective style like this with extensions, perfection. Varying lengths. With protective styles, especially protective styles where you can add a piece of hair and extension to it, you can have varying lengths at any given time. You can go from shoulder length to mid-back length to a little bob, depending on which protective style you choose to do. So it actually really can be a really creative output for you. It can definitely be a lot more fun. A lot of people on YouTube make it seem like protective styles are really boring and dry, and they want to have their hair out with full volume, bodacious hair just blowing out every which way. But I think protective styling can be really fun, and you can have a lot of creative output with it. It's just that you just gotta stretch those brain muscles a bit and just kind of, you know, get a little creative and get your hands in there. But I find that you can be creative and still be doing your hair a service and protecting your hair ends from damage. So there is a lot to be said about protective styling, and there's a lot of pros. So I'm definitely for it. But I'm not going to say that there isn't cons or negatives about it. There definitely is. So one of the first cons I can think of for protective styling is that while it's great, it's in the name, it's to protect your hair ends, it's to keep them up from off your back, out of the way of your clothing or scarves or any type of material that your hair can tangle into and break off your ends, or being exposed to the environment. But there is such thing as doing too much protective styling. For one, it can be very damaging if you keep it in for a really long period of time. Just because your hair is locked away and protected does not give you license just to completely forget about it and do nothing with it. You still have to cleanse the scalp because you want a healthy scalp, because that's a breeding ground for a lot of bacteria. And you don't want to be stressing your hairline and your hair follicles and the scalp for too long a period of time. See, with extensions like what I have in my hair, it can really weigh down on the scalp. And if you have it in for, say, longer than a month, you run the risk of doing more harm than good with your hair. So I would say on average, I wouldn't go over 8 weeks. I think 8 weeks would be the absolute max that you should keep a protective style in. A lot of people like to play fast and loose with that, but in my opinion, I would do it at 8 weeks at the most of intervals, and then give your hair a couple of weeks to recuperate. And then if you want to reinstall it back in and do it again for another month or so, then go on and do that. But I definitely think that you should be giving yourself breaks, and you shouldn't be keeping them for months and months and months on end. Like, I've heard people keeping in protective styles for well over 6 months. And if you're one of those people that have done that and it's worked for you, and you've had no damage whatsoever to your hair follicles or your hairline or anything of that matter, and you haven't put any stress on your scalp, then you know what? Kudos to you. You are winning. But I know for a lot of people, it actually creates a lot more damage, and it becomes a much more tangled situation when you're dealing with all the hairs that you shed, because even if your hair is locked up and protected, your hair is still shedding. They say on average that your hair sheds up to 50 to 100 strands per day. So you have all that locked in with your other hair, and it definitely becomes a problem if you leave it in for too long. So I would definitely say 6 to 8 weeks at most for keeping it in. That is definitely one of the major cons of protective styling. And you can become really complacent with protective styling. And what I mean by that is that if you keep your hair in a set style for way too long, when it's time to take it down and out, and you have to go back into doing the whole wash day routine, it becomes even that much more of a chore. So it's good to give yourself a break, but don't fall off too far from the wagon. You want to get back in there, and you still want to be doing healthy hair practices, you know, cleansing the scalp properly. And unfortunately with protective styling, you can't reach all of your scalp properly. Even with a style like this, like I have it in my hair right now, even though there's so much scalp exposed, I'm not truly getting in there and getting a good deep cleanse. So you definitely want to not rely on them so much that you completely neglect your hair in the process. You want to make sure that you can actually cleanse the scalp, and you know, you want to actually be able to take the time to actually properly detangle the hair and stuff like that. And you get really complacent after a while, and then when it's time to actually go back to doing wash days and such, you're like, oh no, I want to do all this, and then you're not doing healthy hair care practices again. So I would say you don't want to get too complacent and too much of a lazy natural, where you're not doing the things that you know you need to do to keep your hair healthy and on your scalp. So you definitely do get complacent with it. And buildup is definitely a thing to just piggyback off of that point. Product buildup is definitely a thing. Even with my hair locked up like this, I still like to moisturize my hair. Like, I'll typically use a spritz or a liquid, and I'll just spray at the roots. Typically there's some essential oils in my spritz. It's like a water-based spritz with like some essential oils, some rose water, some glycerin, things like that. And you just spritz it along the hairline and the scalp just to keep things moisturized. But you can create buildup from that. Buildup happens naturally, even if you don't put a lot of products in your hair. Like, your hair is exposed to environment every time you go out. There's dust and particles and all sorts of debris that will lodge in the hair. And I have a sensitive scalp, so keeping a protective style in for too long can definitely become a huge hindrance for me. So yeah, there is definitely cons to it, but I think there's a lot more positives and a lot more pros to protective styling than not. And I would say it's definitely something to consider if you're a natural head and you want to break and you want to achieve a length with your hair, and you want to minimize the amount of damage and breakage that you're doing. I think if it's done properly, protective styling can be really essential and a real benefit to your hair journey. But that's just my 2 cents anyway, okay? So I would like to say thank you once again for watching my video. Definitely, if you haven't watched my previous video on things I've learned about becoming a natural so far, I'll definitely encourage you to watch it. It's very rambling long, quite like this video, but I think it's still interesting points to reflect back on, and I definitely want to hear what you guys think. So whomever is watching this, if you have any points that you want to add, either pro or con for protective styling, please let me know in the comment section. And I would like to say take care and hope to see you again soon. Alrighty. Bye.